Here's something that you barely ever hear, and I wanted to express it just because I think it adds a new dimension to the so-called, disinformation campaign, or the whole idea of fact checking, of dispelling disinformation and misinformation, curating the internet, as Obama said when he was still president. That was in its nascent form. Now it's grown out of control, and it's assumed a life of its own, especially during the last 3 years, where you could just get in really bad trouble if you spoke out against the so-called experts who were telling you what to do and what it was safe to do and what it was not safe to do, and that you were a terrible person if you did this, that, or the other thing instead of what they told you should do. And then, of course, later we found out they were totally wrong about everything, but it was just sort of like, hey, so yeah, we were wrong, but whatever, let's just declare an amnesty about that time. We didn't know better. We did the best we could with the information that we had. Let's just move on. Why are you still talking about that? That's past. We're past that now. We need to look ahead, not look behind us. We need to stop complaining about what what happened a few months ago, essentially. Just the balls of that, the ballsiness of that kind of taking that kind of stance, of terrorizing people and tyrannizing people for months and months on end, for years on end, and then afterwards saying, yeah, maybe we were wrong about a lot of things, but let's not talk about that. You're a bad person now if you talk about that. If you draw attention to that, then you're a bad person. Then you're just wanting to live in the past, and you're just bitter about things that have come and gone. Strange they never say that about slavery, right? Right? That happened 160 years in the past in the United States. They never, anybody who talks about slavery now never gets blasted with oh, you're just caught in the past. We move on kind of thing, even though in some ways it might be actually in certain cases it might be not a bad suggestion. Depending on the situation. I'm not saying that across the board to be true, but anyhow, gosh, that was a longer preamble than I intended, but so it goes with me sometimes when I'm speaking off the cuff. I just don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. But here's what I wanted to say, and that is the whole anti-misinformation movement, the whole campaign, to fact check and so forth. It's absolutely intellectually bankrupt at its very core, because what it assumes is something that should not be granted and ought not be granted and is not true. And that is, what it assumes is that these certain people have access to the truth on these matters, and everyone else is in the dark, and everyone else should just listen to this select group of people who have been, selected by the powers that be, right? It's not like anyone who claims to be an expert just gets gets moved to the top of the line and gets to have the authority to fact check those terrible people who insist on asking questions and thinking for themselves and wondering if the so-called experts are right about this, that, or the other thing, since they were wrong about so many things so recently, and they've been wrong about so many other things so recently. But anyhow, just taking all of that out of the picture, just pushing all of that aside, it is absolutely untrue that there is a certain group of people who know best what is true about subject X, subject Y, subject Z, subject whatever. The truth is that we don't know a lot of things. A lot of things are up in the air, and there are people who have studied the matter who have come to radically different conclusions about the matter. In some cases, they've come to, contradictory conclusions about the matter. So what we do not need is some self-appointed, or really it's not self-appointed, it's appointed by the authorities. We don't need some corporate appointed, state appointed group of people to tell us what's right and wrong about everything, and as if they know and the rest of us don't, and all of the other people who have just as impeccable credentials as them, if not more impeccable, much more impeccable. In the case of someone like Bill Gates, we were supposed to take his word for it. Is Bill Gates a doctor? Does Bill Gates know anything? Does Bill Gates really know what makes for a pandemic? What are his prerequisites that make us trust in someone like Bill Gates? Because he knows about computer viruses, therefore he knows about real life viruses and how they operate, and what we should do in the case of them supposedly reaching pandemic levels. I will never use that word without putting it in quotes. I will never use a bunch of the words that they use without putting it in quotes, because I don't respect them, and I never will. So anyhow, the entire notion of misinformation, the entire notion of attacking misinformation by referring you if you're deemed to be wrong about something, by what they were doing for a long time, including right here on this venue, YouTube, of giving you a strike, removing your video because you were quote unquote wrong about this, that, or the other thing, and then referring you to some group of people who it just so happens that the state interest, the corporate interest, big tech, big pharma, all the bigs together, they can be trusted, right? Because they're big. They can be trusted because they're powerful. That's why we should trust. Therefore, they know the truth about things. That's what it boils down to. It's a power play. It's not about truth. It's about power. So, but what it ultimately boils down to is that we're all in the dark about a lot of things. We don't know the truth about a lot of things, and it's not like we're operating in some situation like those who have joined, say, the Catholic Church, where we have this history of certain notions being developed, theology being developed, and we have the magisterium, and we have certain authorities who can who have spoken the truth about what the faith is, what constitutes the faith through the years, and therefore there are certain things that are claimed to be true, and certain valid sources that can be referred to. In a case like this, however, when we're outside of the realm of theology, and I mean what I'm talking about only operates only is operational if you are a part of this faith tradition. And I use the example of the Catholic Church just because that's the tradition that I have joined, that I am a part of. But outside of a circumstance like that, it's basically a question of let's let everybody make a case for what they think is true and see which one prevails, see which one wins out, see which one is the most convincing. Should we trust expert A, who just happens to be the darling of the state, the darling of big tech, the darling of big pharma, the darling of all the bigs? Should we trust expert A, or should we trust expert B, who has just as much competency, or just as much prestige, just as many titles next to his name, if not more, than expert A, but who has radically different conclusions, such as the many, many scientists and doctors who signed the Barrington Resolve, which I signed myself back in the thick of things, back in 2020 and around that time period. Those scientists and doctors and others who were well informed, but who had been kicked out of the club because they weren't saying what the experts, what the experts appointed by the powerful group were saying. So we don't need so-called fact checkers. Okay, we don't need we don't need a curation of what's true. We don't need curators out there telling us what we should believe and what we shouldn't believe, claiming to know what the truth is better than anybody else. What we need is for all of the people out there who have knowledge about a subject to be able to duke it out, to be able to make their case, and the rest of us can draw our own conclusions based on the case that they are making. We need more free speech, not less. And that is why this entire notion of fact-checking and going against quote-unquote misinformation is completely bogus and disingenuous and evil and wrong. And those are my thoughts on the subject. Thanks for watching.